Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're doing the second part to my series of HIYA Toys figure comparison videos. Because yesterday, in this corner, the HIYA Toys went up against the NECA Godzilla 2019 V2. You can check that video out. It's on my channel page. But this time, it's got a pretty great opponent. It's got one of the most high-quality figures of all time. Figure of the Year material. This thing sold out like hotcakes, and even the scalpers on eBay and Amazon, they're selling it. Like, this figure is one of the most legendary figures of all time. It is the Playmates Godzilla vs. Kong Ray Godzilla. Okay, I can't hold in the joke anymore. Yeah, it might seem ridiculous for me to do a comparison between him versus him, a $10 figure versus a $50 figure, but I know I'm not the first one to do this comparison, so let's go ahead and do this. We're going to be doing another 7-rounder. Sculpt and paint, articulation, size, accessories, price, availability, and packaging. So let's start off with the sculpt and paint. I mean, upon all sense of the word, do I really need to go into an in-depth analysis? You already know who wins this round, but let's go ahead and see what figures or what the figures feature as far as paint and sculpt goes. Both of them feature blue eyes, with both of them, being rather solid blue, but the overall coloring of the head, not just the head, but the body itself is vastly different. The HIYA goes for a more realistic looking kind of gray, charcoal gray flesh tone with a lot of bumps and crevices across the body and some blue spray for things like the fins, eyes, mouth, neck, and the chest. Even though I think I already said the chest. While the Playmates features a rather just solid black plastic with some mild blue-gray dry brushing across the sides of the body and some decently applied detailing. It's very washed out, but also features some translucent blue dorsal fins and a blue spray across the tail, which we're going to look at in a sec. But as for the heads, obviously, as far as the application goes, the HIYA clearly wins here because the HIYA has a beautiful spray across the eye. The interior of the mouth is really good as well, and the detail inside the jaw looks really good. You can actually see all the individual sculpted details. While the Playmates features basic white strips and basic applied pink tongue and gum paint, and the eye paint is rather hit or miss, because bringing in my second Ray Godzilla, which I got from a lot, you can see that this one's eyes, they rather fit in well. And this side of the eye, this eye, looks a little down, but it's overall in the correct position. This one has its eye kind of centered well, but this one has its eye a little too high up on the head. It's that versus, I can't even show it on correctly on both figures. There you go. See that? One's higher, one's lower. So as you can tell, the quality consistency of Playmates is a bit jarring. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, but it's a kid's toy. It's a kid's toy. Bandai Creation figures were about the same price, sold at the same places, and were about the same price point, and they didn't have that sort of issue with the eyes. At least not as commonly as Playmates does. Playmates' biggest stick in the fight, personally, for me, is definitely its beautiful translucent blue dorsal plates. They are unresistably amazing, and anyone can agree with you that these dorsal plates are beautiful, especially with how rubbery they are. They are most definitely safe for kids. Rather a little pointy, but I mean, it's nothing like eye-poppingly sharp, unlike this fin up here. And most importantly, these fins. But these fins actually have some blue paint to them. They're not translucent, which is ironic because they are coming out with a translucent version. Like, why do that? You come up with this one, you don't make it translucent, and then you come up with a translucent version? That doesn't make any sense. But what is here is absolutely beautiful. They have like this dark kind of indigo kind of outline here, and then they kind of go in with like the glowing as it's going in. It's almost like a light bulb, how it's like coming from the center and glows. That is really good in my opinion. But the Playmates again has see-through, so you could put a literal light in there if you did so wish. Next, let's talk about the claw paint. The HIYA Toys features a lot of dry brushing and kind of like detailing on their claws, while Playmates has basic slapped on brown paint on their claws, which is more apparent on the feet claws as opposed to the hand claws, which are painted there. It's just not as noticeable. And same thing goes for the HIYA. You can see it, it's just very hard to tell. With that being said, I honestly gotta give it to, well, again, HIYA, but the vibrancy of this one makes it stand out a lot more in my opinion. Although, let's be honest, the application in comparison to that is just pure garbage. Also, the dry brushing on both figures. Very mixed here, because while Playmates does feature a lot of good blue kind of dry brushing, which is more apparent on the Battle Roar Godzilla, which I'll actually bring in for a brief comparison. The Battle Roar Godzilla, if you remember my original review, I complained of how much dry brushing there was on here, because like, look at that. That's just caked on. It's the same type of stuff that's on here, but it's, of course, much more minimalized here than it is here. So I don't know what the factory workers at Playmates were on when they were doing the dry brushing on this, but the HIYA Toys does feature a lot more better applied paint, but again, for the price point, it's to be expected. Last but not least, we're going to be taking a look at the tail of both figures. And as you can tell, there is a clear winner, but let's just get into it. From here to here, at the very tip, is pure dry brushed blue, with the sides of the tail being dry brushed in that more kind of gray coating. With underneath the tail is just more of that like rickety kind of structure, almost like industrial looking color, and it does have like some very sandy like dry brushing bits towards the bottom of the tail, while the Playmates features a very rubbery tail which actually kind of curls in almost like a question mark and has a beautiful blue spray from this point of the tail to this point of the tail. Why they didn't do this, I have no idea, but hey, it's probably just to cut costs, despite the fact that the promotional pictures showed a fully colored tail as opposed to just a half-colored tail. And does not have any other additional kind of like dry brushing or anything, although the spray here kind of gives the illusion like it's actually glowing, which I do so appreciate. So, let's be honest, round one easily goes to the HIYA. HIYA easily wins this because, well, it has the superior sculpted detail, does not have as mellow of detail also, and I will say, even though this is plainly obvious, movie accuracy, because I'm a sucker for movie accuracy, although the Playmates is not bad at all in the sculpt and paint department. I just kind of wish that, you know, they would have maybe spiced things up with maybe some more dry brushing across the body. Also, I will say again, the fins are the saving grace for this thing, because you got a spray here and some beautiful translucent fins there. That is the main thing why this dude is better than him, translucent fins. Nah, but really, he wins round one. Round two, articulation, and we're gonna, again, I know it's a slobber knocker, but let's go ahead and give it the point where it deserves. Both figures feature an articulated hinged jaw that have about the same amount of movement. HIYA features the hinged tongue, ball joints at the head and neck. No, these are not extra joints, they're just merely sleeves. Pop off the head, you'll see why. And although there is a joint here, you can only get so much movement out of it to the point where you actually start cracking it. Look at that. That actually starts to split the plastic. So I would not recommend to start twisting and turning this thing. Both of them feature movable arms, but the HIYA has extra joints, as the shoulder is a ball joint, the elbow is a swivel hinge, and the wrist is a swivel hinge. The HIYA Toys has a ball joint here at the waist, and both of them have articulated hips. Although, keep in mind, Playmates is much more limited because it's a basic swivel that has, literally, it can only go up to there, and it's in a prefixed pose. Same with this one, as it can go only up to here, and there's no articulation at the feet. You try to move those things are going to scrape up over time because both the head and the feet are plugged in on square pegs, not circular pegs. Circular pegs will give you the movement, not square pegs. But the HIYA features ball joints at the hips, double hinged knees, and ball joints at the ankles. The Playmates features one singular ball joint here at the tail, and nothing else for the entirety of it. Even though it is rubber, there's no wire in there. While the HIYA features a series of 9 ball joints running from the base of the tail to the tip of the tail, allowing for a lot of great movement. So once again, the 0.4 articulation goes to the HIYA by a mere landslide. Although it is cool that he does come with a hinged jaw and a ball-jointed tail, he comes with both of those and more. Simply put, there's no contest here. HIYA wins round 2. So round 3 is going to be size. And the same rule applies to the NECA video, which was the last video. NECA, SH Monster Arts, Bandai, Playmates. I want you to think of your favorite figure from those lines. Got it? How tall is it? 95% of people would have picked a 6-inch scale figure. And that's how big all of these Godzilla figures are. They are uniformed in one cohesive scale, regardless if it's intentional or not. To prove this, let's go ahead and bring in a figure from each company. Here's the NECA NES, the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2001, and the Bandai Creations Godzilla 2000 original version. And even though the quality difference of all figures is jarring, and of course, proportionally, some Godzillas might be different than others. For example, he is the bulkiest. They're all standing in a relative scale of shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. And heads, even though again he's hunched over, they'd be all relatively about the same size. So it's basically kept tradition to keep all Godzilla figures in the 6-inch scale and in the 6-inch scale. That is something that the HIYA Toys figures don't do. Now, I know, it's like an inch difference. However, to a bunch of people that are going to be seeing a bunch of scale figures the same, and then they're going to see this bigger one, that's going to it's going to leave them a bit confused. At least for me, from my experiences. So, relatively speaking, even though, again, he's like 7-8-inch scale, which would fit well with figures like the NECA King Kong, the Super 7 line of figures, and maybe the bootleg Imperial as well, and even the Titan Tech figures. As far as 6-inch shoulder-to-shoulder scaling goes, the Playmates is the superior figure for that reason, and therefore gets the point in this round. Round 3 goes to Playmates. Round 4 is going to be accessories. Now, accessories, this is an interesting topic, so let's go ahead and discuss of what both figures have. Both the HIYA Toys comes with the big heat ray, which is bigger than even that of the Playmates figure. It's almost as tall as, it's actually kind of taller than the HIYA, just by a smidge. Comes with an alternate jaw piece for the beam, and comes with an alternate neck piece for the beam. The Playmates has a smaller beam that's made of a much more durable material and has a piece of battle damage. Now, I know people might not consider the battle damage to be an accessory, but personally I do, because it's not only disattached from the figure, but you're supposed to put it on and then take it off. That's what an accessory is supposed to be. And even if it wasn't, it's a toy gimmick, which I'd still consider toy gimmicks to be somewhat of accessories, because if the figure lights up, guess what? It counts. So now putting the battle damage back on, hold on, got it, still had all the way, there we go. Which one do I overall think wins? Well, it is true that, here's the thing. Accessories are meant to liven up displays and make your figures look cooler. Anyone who has owned a collectible knows this. There's pretty much a lot of options. Well, not a lot, but decent amount of options for you and the Playmates. So you can stick the beam in, and you can just have them go into town on whatever, and you don't have to worry about this thing over time. Although, one thing to note is that if you take out and in, you'll start to notice, and this has happened to me, as you can obviously tell. Not sure if my camera will focus in. No, it won't focus in. But you can kind of see like a big black smidge right there. That is the paint getting scraped off over time, thanks to the fact that this thing gets getting pushed in, pushed out, pushed in, pushed out over time. So, unfortunately, that's something you have to keep an eye out for. I'm not going to show you how to do the HIYA beam thing, because I've already done that like a million times, thanks to the NECA review and my original review of this guy. So if you want to just know how to, just to re-summarize, disattach this head and remove these 3 pieces. Make sure those 3 pieces are still together so you don't lose them. Put this on there. It's going to be like a big, long rod of a ball joint. Put that on there, and then put this head on like that, so he looks like he's looking up into the sky. Take the beam and angle it like this, shove it in this way, and then point, and then it should be pointing straight up, and boom, you'll have your Godzilla shooting it up into the air. Now, admittedly, yes, there is a bit of, well, back and forth as to how well that accessory is done as far as, like, the posing goes, because he should be looking straight up, but he's a bit too far angled this way for it to be actually true to the movie. But for what is there, I honestly gotta say, it's a close call, but I feel as if the overall execution of this beam is just done a lot better on this one. So, the round for accessories goes to HIYA because of the quality of their accessories. So, round 4 goes to HIYA. Round 5 is going to be price. MSRP, not aftermarket, not this person said, not that person said, he said, she said, that rule. MSRP, what we find on the market at retail price. He is $10, or to be more precise, just shy of $10. He is about $40 to $50, depending on where you get him. I had to pay like a good chunk of money for this dude, which was way more, but truth be told, he still caps out at about $40 to $50 before shipping. So, with that being said, it's another slobber knocker. The round goes to the Playmates. Round 6, availability. And unlike the NECA one, we don't have to give this one a tie because both figures are being produced at the same time on shelves together. Kind of, as far as being on the shelves together. They're both being produced at the same time still. So who gets the win? Well, you already probably know who it is, but this dude has not been released to all that major retailers, I don't believe. And is mainly found at like comic shops and whatnot. He has been found at Walmarts, Targets, and even countries with Toys R Us still. So with that being said, major retailers like that, that's basically locked in the point for availability, so it has to go to the Playmates. And for the last round, it's going to be round 7, packaging. Now, I am not judging which box looks cooler, because that would be done on the box showcase, wink wink. That being said, both boxes, like if I had to give like my honest opinion, I think this box looks cooler than that box. But as far as the collector consumers market goes, I actually think that Playmates wins this. Wait, hold the horses. Here is why. Let's say, in the rare case scenario, go into any store and you find these two on the market, on the shelves together. You know what this is and you know what this is. You're obviously going to want this one. But what about the quality? specifically, let's say there's like full stockage of both figures. There's like 6 of him and there's like 6 of him. You don't know what the figure itself looks like as far as the quality is concerned. Because what if I buy a HIYA Godzilla and it is missing an accessory? That happened with me in Mezco. They forgot the base to my flying Hedorah. Let's say it's missing this neck piece, which is always a possibility. Let's say it's got a bit of a paint rubbage. Let's say paint's chipping off. Let's say. There's so much factors to get into about this guy because there's no clear window to look into. The Playmates, on the other hand, you can actually see everything because it's open boxed. And because it's open boxed, you can see its accessory, you can see how the paint on the eyes and the mouth look, you can see how the dry brushing looks, the claw paint looks. Basically what I'm saying is, if the figure doesn't have a clear window actually showing you what the figure itself looks like, because even Mezco has tried this now with their new Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla set, the 3-pack. They know that that's what collectors want. They want their good quality product. That's what they want. HIYA Toys, I keep spitting all over the place. HIYA Toys doesn't seem to understand that. And because of that, Playmates, you can actually see what you're getting, and this is more of a consumer-friendly box. Granted, this is reusable, but as far as actually going into store and looking at it, the Playmates wins it because of that sole reason. Alrighty, so now that all the rounds have been completed, let's go ahead and tally up the scores. The sculpt and paint point went to the HIYA Toys, as well as the articulation. The Playmates won the point in size, HIYA won the point in accessories, Playmates won the point in price, availability, and packaging. Oh boy. That's a score of 3-4 against 7 rounds. I can't believe I'm saying this, and I swear this would not ever come out of my mouth, but the Playmates wins against the HIYA in this round. Now, hold the score, hold the phone, hold the sandwich, hold the whatever you're holding in your hand right now. Probably pitchforks. Let me explain. There is a reason why he won this. It's not because out of comical fashion or I'm just trying to dunk on the HIYA for replacing my favorite action figure company, quote unquote. It's not because of that. It is just merely because of a point-by-point blow basis. He has the superior sculpt, paint, well, that it's just one category, but sculpt and paint, articulation, and obviously comes with the better accessories. But for the average consumer, that's great. But he fills in more of those check marks, which come in the form of size, because he's uniform shoulder to shoulder, as I showed earlier in the part 2 at least. He comes with a good price tag of only $10, which is very well market friendly, and especially wallet friendly. Oh boy, all those Bandai vinyls, $20 a piece. You really want that? There's also the availability side. He's at the same place you can get your potatoes at Walmart. Okay, maybe I'm just being a bit cheesy there. But seriously, still, that is the truth. And he also technically would have the better box as far as finding the best one for your buck. Especially since, like, ordering it online, yeah, maybe he would be the better one. But as far as going into retail, he has the better box. And there's no arguing about those statements. Unless you're looking at an online view, then maybe that evens it out, because the people aren't going to care. They're just going to dump it in and send it off. That's ultimately what happens with a lot of figures. But still, that is ultimately what happens here. On a point-by-point blow basis, the Playmates wins this competition. Obviously, it's clear that he's the better figure than he is. Any day of the week, I would choose him over him. The only way I'd use him in, like, say, like, my projects, my shows, is maybe as a stunt double. Maybe if I need a figure to be thrown around, I would just use this. Because, what damage is this thing going to get? Paint rubbage? This thing's already suffering from much paint rubbage anyway. But still, it's a cheap, mass-produced figure that is readily available to the market. And as far as easy accessibility goes, I feel like that's the big thing. It's easy accessibility versus higher quality collectible. It's really all down to preference, but at the end of the day, to hammer in once again, the Playmates wins this round because of its cheaper price, better availability, more consumer-friendly packaging, and has a better size as far as the collector is concerned. While the HIYA comes in second place because of its sculpt and paint, articulation, and accessories. That being said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys liked it, definitely subscribe to the channel. Believe in Jesus, accept him as your Lord and Savior today, spread the gospel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone. God bless.